Okay, folks. Uh, Happy Friday. My name's Andy Moish. I'm here with John Lee, and we've been assigned to give this presentation on some different aspects of data interpretation and LACES. And I guess your assignment is to listen. Our goal is actually to finish our assignment before you finish your assignment. So we'll do our best here. I know the only thing stopping us from your bowl of ice cream and your weekend is this presentation. So I hope to give you some insight and data that'll help you take a little bit of something away from this and see how you can use it within your programs. So I want to start real quick, just sharing with you. I listened to Kim Cameron. He's a doctoral professor at the University of Michigan. He gave a conference talk about heliotropic effects and how all organisms kind of lean to the light. So he wanted us to bring that into business and industry, but he was also talking to educators, CEOs, and our higher ups. And he was talking about the feel-good things, about how to make your business, feel like they're doing a good job, that you care about them, that everybody's happy. But he also talked about information and how information can enlighten everybody. And I hope, as we go through this, what we share with you can give you a little bit more light into the information and data, because sometimes it can be dry and there is an attitude that you're in control of. And hopefully that attitude of data and what you can see and what you can bring to light is going to be a positive aspect. So I want to get into my first slide. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each of these slides, but I just explain what some of them are. So let's see. I know my cursor's having a problem here. Here at the top, I put together some information going back, and I've got, where'd my cursor go again? Sorry. I'm going to have to just play with it until is it showing? Okay. I've got the years up here, and a couple slides I'll be showing 16, 17 data, as well as these ones up here. And what we're going to talk about later in my portion are these EFL levels. And what I want to focus on are these three levels right here, because if you look at the information and the data throughout this time period, we've got some really high numbers here. And I would have chose some other ones, but specifically for this presentation, I wanted to get into these totals just a little bit later, along with our total count. Because as you see down here, we've got kind of a trend of decreasing participants. What that looks like, thanks to PowerPoint and their awesome charts, is we've got a pie here. So you look at those three EFL levels, they're taking up quite a big chunk of that pie. And I did want to point out that our lower ESL levels kind of represent the same trend as our ABE 2, 3, and 4. Our big challenge, is to take the general data points and look at the quality characteristics. These data points help us identify the areas of improvement and opportunities for both the clients we serve and for the programs and the instruction provided to them. Identifying those characteristics require inquiry and reflection. Answering key questions about the personal characteristics and challenges of our participants will allow you to have insight into the road to their success. So on this slide here, we went from EFL and now we're into more of a performance chart. Same years here at the top. I'm going to focus on these three, our participant levels, our MSG totals, and down here at the bottom where we were looking on the other chart, we had participants that trended to decline. I want you to pay attention to our GEDs and why that might be reflective in this chart as it was in our total participant count. So as we look at some of this data, again, thanks to PowerPoint, I want to use, this is a simple line graph, but what I want to show you especially is the difference in space between these lines. Now I know you all know how to read, timelines and time graphs, but we look up here at participants, like I said, we're trending to go down. Okay, and right at this 1920, when we had some difficulties in education with our economy and our participants and things like that, we've got a steeper climb. Our measurable skills have been pretty steady. So right at this time, and our GEDs, right at this time when we started to have problems, our GEDs leveled out, which is awesome. And the space between these gaps tightened, which means something about education, which means something about what you do. There's fewer participants falling between these gaps now. And so our improvement increased. And you'll see that later in some of these charts. This represents our GEDs. Yay, Arkansas. I circled them because we are tied for fourth here. But if you look at these numbers right here and the number of accounts and the number of test takers. They are significant. I'm not saying that these numbers aren't significant, but we are certainly in bigger numbers right here. And we're at the top of those states with significantly bigger numbers. So awesome job, you guys. Arkansas is doing a great job with attaining and passing our GEDs. This is what it looks like on this chart. Over the last handful or so years, in adult ed, we've got just shy of 14,000 GEDs. Our corrections has just above 4,000, and total GEDs is 18,275. I want to talk a little bit about why I'm going to focus on the GEDs, and the next couple slides will get into some of the key aspects of the importance of a GED. And this slide has a couple good words for the ideas that I want you to think about. What types of empowerment tools does it give our students, and also motivation? I know earlier today and yesterday, some of the presenters were talking about how they viewed GEDs being a highway and being able to take them to some other key places and opportunities in their life. And on this slide, I broke down, I know it's going to be small for you to see. You might have to squint just a little bit or maximize your screen, but I broke it down by our programs. And what we've got in yellow is the number of participants. Teal would be our reportables, individuals. And then in green is our GEDs. And the reason I showed you this is because there's a lot of ways to break down those GEDs. And one way that we do, we like to look at that is what performance, what numbers does each of our programs have, and what are they able to do with the amount of participants that they have, what type of rates, GED rates do they have, and measure that with the performance with surrounding counties. So I mentioned surrounding counties because on this chart, I know it's small again. I had to decide whether I wanted to show all the counties or just some of them and just give you an example. But for the years 16, 17 to 20, 21, we've been able to break down the GEDs with the zip code of the county those individuals lived in. So if you look at the chart here, it does show all of the people and the zip codes that they're representative to, assign them to the counties. So down here at the bottom on this side, it does show you the GED totals for that year. And I did want to mention on the 2021, we do have the total number of GEDs, but back from GED analytics, we have not been able to get the zip code verified and approved to send back to us for the individuals to be placed in these counties. So I've got one more column to do for that slide. I put this together for you too. Now, on this map, it shows for those years, 2016 to 2019, the total amount of GEDs that have been acquired in these counties. And what this allows you to do is hopefully assimilate some of those things you know about these counties that are differential from the counties in other regions. And if you look at the totals, sometimes you can see, oh yeah, those counties are hard hit economically or, financially, or even in population. There's a lot of things to consider, but this map gives you some good data points. And what I put here at the bottom was it's wise to compare data points versus other data points. And so in this map, I just did 2016, 2017. And if you look, I want you to focus on maybe one or two counties close to each other that you want to just look at in the next couple slides, because this one is 2017, 2018. If I bounce back to 16, 17, you get a chance to look at that one or two counties that you were looking at before. So let's see, 16, 17, 17, 18. So what does 18, 19 look like now? Well, we've got this. What did it look like in 17, 18 again? Look like this. All right. Obviously, we're going to take into account some of the other things, like I said, in 18, 19, what was going on, how many people were in those programs, was the performance rate high or low? 19, 20, and we get into a year of COVID and the pandemic. Did it go down from this year? Did it go up? Some counties went down. Most of them went down. In 18, 19, here we go. In 19, 20, some of them went up, but not very many. And again, here's your total amount in those counties. And as we were having a conversation here at the state office, I was asked, well, what is the rate of those maybe dropping out of school or not attaining their high school diploma, and how many individuals do we have? Are we going to run out of individuals? And this is a map of the individuals without GEDs in Arkansas right now. So this is by the 2020 census. So if you look at those that have been collected in the last 4 years, we've got a couple hundred. Some counties still have single digits. But we look at how many individuals in those counties do not have their GEDs, and it's going to take 10 or 15 years, if nobody else dropped out of school or didn't earn their GED, for us to catch up. So we've got a lot of work to do, and you're not going to run out of people to serve. A lot of people without GEDs in the state of Arkansas. Well, what does that mean? If we have this many people in the state of Arkansas, where are those people, and what does that mean? So I've got a chart here. I didn't put them all again. I know it's small, but down here we got a list of counties. Up at the top, there's household income, what the ranking in the state is, how many of the people are on food stamps, what's the unemployment rate, their population, a population with less than a GED, and that's our total, 446, 635. What's the percent of population in that county? There you are. And persons living in poverty, and the percent of persons living in poverty, the percent of household receiving SNAP. And again, this top row goes on and on. I've got a few more columns and I'm working on more. So I want to look and see in these counties, what types of barriers do we have and what types of clients are we working with? And the reason why I highlighted these two columns was if you look at the number of people with less than a GED, overall in the counties and the population, percent of population with less than GEDs versus the poverty columns, they are very close. And so what I did was I looked at what our state numbers are. And if you look, there they are on just a bar graph, our non-GEDs and our poverty numbers. They are very similar. Well, we rank 49th and 47th in the nation. So we need to improve that. Why do we need to improve that? There's 446,000 people 635 living in Arkansas, ages 25 to 65, who've not earned their GED. Now, I know earlier, Emily Pawlowski gave a presentation. She used a lot of data from the National Council of Education and Statistics, and it showed earlier years. And I'd used a lot of that information too. I had to go to quite a few different websites, in fact, a little over 20, to try and get multiple data points, because usually your poll of people, your survey is not the same. And you want to try and make sure that the survey that they're using has a good source of people. So in one of her figures, I noticed that number was higher, 446,635. And I had to look at her data poll, and it was including 16-year-olds and up. So I recognized that my data was looking at 25 to 65. So a little bit different take in data. This is why, folks, the impact of a GED. There's about 5 or 6 different websites that have the average amount in difference in earnings from those that have GEDs and those that don't. So the 2 that I used was the National Council of Education Statistics. They were the highest, $11,527 a year more than those that earn their GED. Arkansas, Discover Arkansas, has $8,424 a year more after earning their GED. So I took these 2 numbers because it is the high and the low. But if you took $1,500 off here, you have $10,000. You added $1,500 here, you're close to $10,000. And so a lot of times when you hear people talk, you hear people earn about $10,000 more after they earn their GED. That's fairly accurate. Over all the websites that I looked at, here's our high and here's our low. The other ones were somewhere in between. And so what does that mean? Well, if we've got 446,600 people in Arkansas without GEDs, if you got your phone out, take that number, 446,000, and add 4 zeros. And tell me what people in Arkansas could earn more, not just earn that year, but earn more than we would have as a state had they not earned their GEDs. So this is what it looks like because we earned our GED. So here's our total. We've got this amount here over the last couple of years. What I want to point out is the totals on this chart only include the non-institutionalized. So the people in corrections, well, they didn't make any money. They didn't pay any taxes. So I didn't include those. But I took the 2 numbers, okay, and I times them. And this is what they would have earned more last year had they earned their GED. So those people that earned their GED last year, of the 2,066, 1829 in adult ed times our high. I know I timesed our high. I had to get really excited about it. Earned 21 million, a little over 21 million more. Well, the reason I've got it like this is because last year it would have been these 2 individuals. 3 years ago, it would have been a 3-year cumulative. So down here at the bottom, what I've got is over the last 5 years, we just have a total of this amount right here in this column. Over here, over 5 years, what I want to point out is those individuals, this total here, over the 5-year period would have made over a little over $431 million. And I say that because through our data match share in our Swiss agreement, we were able to do some earnings and statistics of these individuals. And I didn't include the totals, but I want to get to that in just a sec. So if you take that total, where'd my cursor go? There we are. And you look at this chart here. The United States average is 65,712. Arkansas ranks 49th. I know we rank 49th, and thank goodness for that one state. We won't say their name, but we're all thankful they're below us. Arkansas is ranked 49th in the nation because our median earning average household earnings is 48,952. So take that 11,527, and you add it to that, we go from the bottom of this tier here to almost the top of this tier here. That's a lot in Arkansas. It means a lot to those that earn their GEDs. I know that anybody that's earning lower than the median household income is struggling. We've seen them. Some of them are our clients. We're working with them, and we know what we do is going to help them. I'm giving you the stats on it. So 50% of all household median income in Arkansas is below the mean and median income for the state of Arkansas. Now, I put this here because that means that 50% of those people include families, married couple families, and also non-family households. And I put this down here because I want you to think about this. If there's 3 million people in the state of Arkansas, the census says there's 2 million, a little over 2 million adults, which leaves approximately 1 million youth under the age of 18 in the state of Arkansas. And I don't want to get into what the problems are when families can't get out of debt and kids grow up learning those struggles or don't learn how to improve, what that means, down the years and through generations. But gives us opportunity to make a difference now and change lives now. Of those 2 million adults, 25 years old in Arkansas, the census reports that 607,000 of those adults have earned a post-secondary degree or higher. Of those 607,000, 143 earned an associate's degree and 463,000 earned a bachelor's degree or higher. However, again, Arkansas ranks 49th because we have the lowest percentage of adults that have earned an associate's degree or higher. So we're struggling with our GEDs percentages because we have a lot of individuals by percentage, 446,000 and change adults in Arkansas that haven't got their GEDs, but we also are ranked 49th with a low percentage of adults that have an associate's degree. So we've got our work cut out. We're doing good. And this is what it looks like on a PowerPoint bar graph. So you've got your associate's degrees in blue, your higher degrees in green, and they total up here, but we still have right here in this space here, we still have 1,400,000 or 70% of Arkansas adults that don't have any degree. And that number, again, 446,635 out of that still don't have their GEDs. So we can make a huge impact for Arkansas. We've got a lot of leaning towards the light to do, and a great seat in education and what we do to watch that happen. So everybody puts their shoulder to the wheel and pushes along, and we get everybody moving those numbers up this chain here, and we get to see the benefits happen within those families. Let's help them take that first step. Let's help them get their GED. So in the data match and the Swiss information that we earned, what I wanted to do is show you a couple maps real quick. In this map, prior to earning their GEDs in the state, federal, FICA, property and sales tax, this is how much money our GED folks paid in taxes. So are they a contribution to the state? Well, you betcha. Before they earned their GED, they made $72 million. They paid $72,025,000, broken up by county. We've got that information on the spreadsheet. What does that look like after 2 years of earning their GED? So I showed you prior was 72. 2 years after, we've got a big increase. So 2 years after earning their GED, they paid, it wasn't make, they paid 117 million, almost 118 million dollars in taxes. That's awesome. After 7 years, they paid 190 million dollars, 190.5 million dollars in sales tax. Now, I took that information, I looked at our previous guesstimations with how much money people earn after they earn their GEDs. And I looked at, okay, what do we pay in state, federal, FICA property and sales tax? About 30%. So I took the difference, the 70%, and added it to that. And I'll be danged, we're right around that 430 million mark that I showed you on that chart. It is pretty close. What does that look like, folks? This is what it looks like.
There's apparently no sound in the video. It's weird. We heard the sound.
No sound?
Yeah.
Ow. How did it get no sound? I heard it.
Yeah.
Did my speaker didn't pick it up? Dang it.
Yeah.
I'm short on time. Bridget showed that video the other day. So our design group has gone around with some of the success stories of people that earn their GEDs. And she talked about feeling empowered. She talked about the motivation that she gained from earning that GED and what it meant going forward. And yeah, dang it, I'm sorry we didn't get to see that. But hey, here, just a quick slide. Those are a lot of the sites that I went to for that data. Not a big deal, but I wanted to throw that in there so you didn't know that I was just
There was a
hucking hooey at you.
There was a question about where did you obtain those stats, and from a bunch of different sites it looks like.
Yeah, I've got a lot more. If you want them, I can add 20 more to that list. How do we improve? Well, let's look at our ABE level 2, 3, 4. Again, we've got a big population right here. Those three levels are 62.7% of all of our students that we serve. I put this right here because of those levels 2 through 4, 73.8% earn their GEDs out of those three levels. Now, you're probably wondering, really level 2? Well, you're right. Not level 2, that's not a big deal, but in order to get to level 3 and level 4, you've got to, because they had a high number of participants in there, I put this to show you that they are significant because they're 18%, what was it, 18%, 20% of our total population over the last 4 years is level 2. So we've got to be efficient and effective with our level 2s to get them to move up that ladder. Because of those three levels right here, we're looking at a big chunk of the tower here. We've got 73.8% of our GEDs being earned in those three levels. So that's what that looks like. Okay, here, not all 3 years, but we're just going to look at 2021. Again, here's ABE 2, 3, 4, and again, our ABE 3 is a big chunk of that pie. So we're going to look at this real quick. Of our ABE 3, this is a table 2. I want to look at this row right here because the males outnumbered the females before, or we're really close, but in this age, we've got a clear separation. And I chose this one because it's the largest group. So because this one's circled first, we're going to start with the African Americans and look at this group real quick. Just some charts. So of our participants, again, 75-101 in the age group 25-44, oops, did I go? There we go. Our MSG rate's 26.7. So might be good to look into this a little bit more. Our average attendance hours are higher than the males, but our performance is lower. So is it a trend? That's the one question we want to ask. Well, of all levels, ABE 1 through 6 and 25 through 44 for African Americans, we have in that age group a lower percentage of MSG attainment. So maybe what we do is we start looking at some of these individually in this age group and identifying who they are. And again, on a larger scale, finding out which counties they live in, what types of barriers they have, identifying a state map, what regions they are, how's the economy in that area, what's transportation look like, what does internet look like. There's going to be some things that show up that give us some answers to why or how we can help these people attain that a little bit more. Now, on a demographic, the other population polls were significantly less than this, even than the Asian total, so I left those off. But if you look at the numbers over here, our African American females are having a hard time. What can we do in that demographic? Let's identify what is holding them back. What are some of the things that we can improve to help them more, become more effective? Because our average hours are almost the same. In fact, they're higher, but our performance is lower. So what is it about our females that even though their hours are close to the males, what is it about those the characteristics that we can identify to help them? If my mom were here and she was 25 to 44, she would kind of give me the cross-eye, the scary-eyed look and say, Andy, it's stress. You know that I'm stressed out about money. I'm stressed out about transportation. I'm stressed out about feeding you kids, how we're going to get this and that. I'm going to help take care of you kids. So there, beyond what you can identify, sometimes having somebody, I talked to one of our PAs, just having somebody to go to education with, having a friend, but also being welcomed and feeling welcomed when they get there really makes a huge difference. And becoming that friend, somebody that they can come to for answers to their solutions to their problems, can help them identify some ways to improve those. So what I want to do is turn the time over to John. He's going to show you how to do that. I know I just showed you the charts here, but part of this training, part of this presentation is John's expertise in
What's the expertise?
in showing you how to locate some of those individuals. So.
Okay. Thank you, Andy. And for some reason, I feel like if I don't have my video on, then you can't see me, even though you probably can, or can't see me. But if you can't see me, then I feel like you can't hear me, which I know.
Oh, yeah. Let me mute myself. There we go.
Well, and lower your volume too. Or I can just talk to yours. Okay, can everybody hear me without obnoxious, loud sounds happening at the same time? Okay, good deal. All righty. So my name is John Lee, as Andy was saying earlier. I'm a program advisor for the Southwest region of the state. Also, you probably know me from a lot of the LACES trainings. And so I am just going to kind of cover a few things with you guys that sound a little bit probably more philosophical than you were banking on. And then, as Andy said, I'm going to kind of show you how to pull some of these searches, especially for the demographic information when we're talking about comparing data and seeing how different groups are doing compared to other groups in our particular programs. I'm going to show you that really quick because because Andy pulled a whole bunch of data from several different sources, as you saw, as it relates to statewide and those GEDs. But I am really going to be focusing on what you all can do in your individual programs to pull that data. So just a few questions that you're probably asking yourself. Now that you have all that information is one, which is what I'm going to show you here shortly, is how can I pull this data for myself and my program? Then you might be asking, once I pulled the data, what should I do with it? Okay, and a good answer to that question is share it with your staff, share it with your program, and brainstorm. We know that you guys have staff meetings. We know that you guys come up with self-studies. And so those are really good ways that you can utilize that data. And so what kinds of questions, once you are viewing your data, once you're seeing some of these comparisons between demographic groups, what kinds of questions are you going to be asking yourself after you analyze the data? And then how can you use it for program improvement? We know that you guys are doing a lot of great things in your programs. That was evidenced by our data from last year, where we met every single one of our benchmarks. I'm going to keep repeating that because that's a big deal. But there's always room for a little bit of improvement. You might have a demographic group that might not be doing quite as well as the others, right? And so kind of once you figure all that out, who is going to be held accountable? Not only for the data, but also utilizing that data for setting goals for your program. And so those are all some questions that you can be asking yourself. There we go. Okay. So everything has a beginning. Like I said, a little bit philosophical here. So everything has a beginning, and that rings true for data analysis, right? So first you have to be able to know how you can extract that data that we were talking about. Some of you who have been to my LACES trainings over the past year to 2 years, you might already have a good idea how to do that. But that is what we're going to cover here for the next, it's 1:23. We are done at 1:45, maybe earlier, depending on where we go with this. So before I jump into LACES, I just want to let you guys know that we are always here to help. Okay. Andy's always here. I'm always here. The other PAs are always here. Even if we're not physically in the office, especially this time of year, it's going to be with program reviews and site visits. So we might be out of the office, but shoot us an email if you ever have questions about anything. I do also offer LACES office hours. Okay, it is a dedicated 1 hour time slot every Friday, unless stated otherwise. Like today, for example, we had to cancel those because of the ACE conference. But that is an hour-long time slot strictly dedicated to LACES and your LACES-related questions. That's from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. every Friday. That Zoom link was actually sent out to all of the programs. And so if you are a teacher, a parapro, a staff member, whatever your role is with the program, and you don't have that Zoom link, please get in touch with your director. Okay. All right. So with that being said, Andy's going to stop sharing his screen. I am going to, let's see. I'm going to close out some things I already had opened in LACES. I'm going to share mine really quick. And I really do want you all to understand that, since we have limited time, and I know you guys, it's a Friday. Is this the last session of the day? Woo! Congratulations to you guys making it that far. I don't want to keep you the whole time if we don't have to, but that being said, if you have questions, please ask them. This is similar to a lot of the information that I cover in my LACES trainings. And so Andy spent a lot of time talking about GED information as well as MSG attainment for certain demographic groups, right? And there are ways that you can isolate those students. And so just because I want to make sure that we have some actual data that I can pull, I am actually using the state database, but I made sure to hopefully remove any information such as social security number and stuff like that that might be confidential. And so what I'm going to do, hopefully, and again, this is not a full-blown LACES training, so I'm not going to go step by step on how to find these things. But if you have, well, first of all, I just kind of want to say, if you have your view set up to show you all of this information in your student grid, that would be the most important thing. And so hopefully you know what I'm talking about when I say view. When I do say view, I am basically meaning this whole student grid area, okay? And so using the view manager, this is actually a page that you can customize and you can manipulate it to look however you want it to look, okay? And so once we have set that up, we can actually run some searches. You've probably heard me say in previous LACES trainings that there are ways to stack searches. And that's pretty much what we're going to be doing here, especially when we are looking for certain data points for a certain demographic group, okay? So when we go over to our searches here by clicking on this little blue button, we have our NRS tables, okay? You see NRS here. You can click down to get all of these NRS tables. Now, I understand that your accessibility in LACES might depend on the role that you were given when you, when you had an account that was set up. And so some of this you might or might not be able to see, but I just kind of want to give you the idea that this is information that you can pull. So what you also need to know when you are running these searches is what these tables actually represent, okay? That's going to make your time doing these searches a lot smoother and a lot more efficient, right? So when we're talking about demographics, we are mainly talking about our NRS table 2, okay? You're going to find a lot of our demographic groups on that table. So I'm going to hover over this table. I'm going to add it. And then I'm going to choose the program year. So Andy was pulling data from 2021 fiscal year. So I'm just going to stay consistent with that. So I'm going to choose that year for our data. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm just kind of going to focus on those race ethnicity groups. And so I'm just going to pick one. And so what we could do is we could choose just all of the students of a particular race, ethnicity, and all of the students of a particular gender. So for example, if I wanted to see how all of my Hispanic females did perform in the 2021 year, I can select this total number in the female column for my Hispanic Latino students. Okay, so I'm just going to do that real quick. The good thing about these tables is you can click on the numbers, and that is exactly what is going to populate in your student grid when you click on that number. So these are all of my Hispanic Latino female students who were participants in the year 2021. Okay, so that is all who is represented in my student grid. So now I have some options, and it all depends on the data that I am trying to find. Okay, so one of my options, what I could do is, now that I have these students in my student grid, I could run a table 4 on them. And as you might or hopefully know, your table 4 is really all about your performance. Okay, that is your performance table. So when I talk about stacking searches, it is really important to choose the correct option here. And so you'll see a couple different options: add or replace. We already have our search in place for our Hispanic females. So we want to add this table 4 on top of that table 2 search. Okay. And you also want to be consistent about the fiscal year that you are selecting. Okay. Because if you choose one fiscal year for your demographic information, but then you choose a different fiscal year for your performance information, then your data is going to be skewed. Okay. So those two things have to be consistent. So I'm going to choose 2021. And now my table 4 is going to tell me, out of those 1,309 Hispanic Latino female students, how did they perform? And the answer is quite well. They ended up, they actually, our state average as a whole last year was 56%. And so our Hispanic Latino female population, they hit that 56%. And just glancing, it looks like that they met every single benchmark. Okay. And so this is a good way to kind of drill down on certain demographic groups if you are just wanting to do something like run a table 4. Okay. There are some other options that you have though, right? So I'm going to close out my table 4. And I close that out, but I still have my table 2 demographic information is still populated in that student grid. So let's kind of go back to what Andy was talking about earlier, which is GEDs. Let me see, out of these participants, out of this very specific group of participants, how many actually earned a GED? And I can do that by scrolling down on my panel here that I opened. This is my searches panel, remember? So I can scroll down and I can keep on scrolling, and you should see an option called Adult Education Follow-up. Okay. If you expand that, at the very bottom of that is your secondary school diploma earned. Now, again, as I was saying earlier, this is a stackable search. I want to see how many of this group earned a GED, so I need to select add when I am running that search. And this is going to ask you for one more, for a couple pieces of information is, what's your time period that you want to know about, right? Do we want to know about all of 2021, or do we want to know about a certain quarter? Whichever your time period is that is related to your search, you can customize it here, okay? You can set it up here. For our purposes, I'm going to set our date parameters. And again, I'm going to keep it consistent with the year that I pull the demographics from, okay? So I'm going to keep it consistent. I'm just going to do July 1st of 2020 to June 30th of 2021. Once I set my date parameters, I'm going to click apply, and my student grid is going to tell me how many GEDs that group earned. So we have 88, okay? So out of that 1,309, 88 of those students actually earned their secondary school diploma, okay? So, but as we know, earning a GED is not the only way that we track performance and we gauge success in adult education, right? We have pre and post tests. And so we also measure success on the number of gains that our students earn when they post test. So we can run a level gains report on this specific population. But before I do that, I want to make sure that I close my secondary school diploma search, okay? So I'm going to close that, but my table 2 search has to remain open in order to get the data that I'm looking for, okay? So with these participants still in my student grid, I'm going to click on reports. And I want to know all all of the EFL level gains that this particular group of students earned, okay? So I'm going to click on the level gains report. I'm going to select this for fiscal year 2021, because once again, it has to remain consistent with the fiscal year that you pulled the data from. And then I'm just going to click on Print Excel. And this is basically creating a report that is going to tell you, out of those students in your student grid, how many earned gains. And some of these students might have multiple gains next to their name. So depending on the number of participants that you have, it could take a little bit of time to generate that report like it's doing right now. But I'm hoping that you kind of get the gist of what I'm talking about is within LACES, we're just doing it just for one demographic group right now, but you can do it for several. You could break it down. If I wanted to look at, let me look at this level gains report real quick. I think I'm going to have to do another share. Yeah. So hold on one second, guys, because I want to show you guys this report here. Okay. So this is the level gains report that popped up once I exported that information. Okay. And so again, strictly out of those Hispanic, Latino, female participants from 2021, this is going to show me all of the gains that they earned by student and by assessment. Okay. So again, we got some students on here. This one student has 4 level gains. Okay. That's pretty amazing. Because our students can earn multiple gains. And when it comes to multiple gains, I just want to, say this, you get credit for that in funding. Okay. Now, what you can do if you want to see the total amount of gains that this one demographic group earned, you just have to scroll all the way to the bottom, all the way, we got a lot of pages here, all the way to the bottom. And I have my total amount of gains as 1,960. Now, this is not going to be, now as a state, I can't remember the exact number, but as a state, we earned over 6,500. I want to say like 66 or 6,800 gains in that ballpark as a state. So when you consider that, and when we are taking just one demographic group, and not even all of Hispanic Latinos, we are just looking at the female Hispanic Latino participants. When you take that into consideration, this number is pretty amazing. Okay. So all of that student population earned 1,960 gains. Okay. I'm going to roll back to LACES real quick on my shared screen. Okay. And I'm going to close out of that. And so hopefully you guys are back. Okay. Let's see. I'm trying to think of one more thing. And again, if I wanted to break this information down even more, I could open up my search that I already have open, or that's already active, and I could break this down. I could choose another demographic group. I could break it down by age group. Let's say I wanted to look at just my 19 to 24-year-olds in total. I would go all the way over here, which is 1,353 of those participants from last year. Or I could be very, very specific. Let's say that I wanted to look at Black or African-American males who are in the 19 to 24 age group. Okay. I would just click on that 113. My student grid would populate with that number, and then I could run any of the searches that are relevant to the information that I am trying to find about that particular demographic group. Okay. And those are just a few honestly, those are just a few of the ways that you can run searches. There's also this add search button up here, which gives you a ton of options. You can also filter for information in these column headers. You can type into them and you can filter with this little filter button here. There's all kinds of ways that you can pull similar types of information that Andy was showing you earlier. Okay, so it's not just something that we at a state level can do, and it's not just something that if we have any program directors in the session, it is not just something that you as a program director can do. Ultimately, everybody is responsible for program data and how that data is utilized for program improvement. Okay, there should be input from everybody when you're talking about this information at your staff meetings, when you are surveying staff, when it comes to doing your self-study. This is all relevant information for program improvement. Okay, I am running very low on time, so if you have any questions, we got 3 minutes. I don't want to keep anybody later than they need to be kept. But just know, please know, that this information is not just for this one workshop. A lot of this information has been covered in LACES trainings, which have been documented and recorded on a Canvas course. And so if you need access to that Canvas course, which has a ton of guidelines and resources, instructions, all that fun stuff, please let me know and I can give you access to that. Once again, our email address is in the PowerPoint there on the question slide. So any questions? Comments? I know we threw a lot of information and data at you, but please know that that is for your benefit, just to give you kind of a bigger picture of how impactful adult education and what you all do is. I mean, it's we literally change folks' lives. Like, that's not just a saying, and the data shows that. That is a good question. Can we? That might be a good question for our facilitator. Are these PowerPoints going to be made available to everybody who attended, or is that something that we do?
And when?
Yes, I believe if
And
you
when?
will-
Yes.
When the when I am not 100% sure on, but I do know if you will send it to Rob that he was going to send out the previous presentations PowerPoints. So I would assume that he would do the same
Okay.
for this as well.
Gotcha.
And I did go ahead and put the links in the chat. There's 2 links. There's the session survey as well as the conference survey. The conference survey will have to be done to get your professional development certification. It is also on the conference page. So if you missed it in the chat, you can access it through the conference page.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Good deal. No, thank you guys. We will get that presentation to Rob ASAP, so that can be made available. And then once again, I think I saw somebody mention that they need the link for the LACES training. I should have this. I should have that your email address in the chat log once we close out. But if not, please shoot me an email. My email address is very simple. I promise. It is jon.lee@arkansas.gov. So not a very long name. But yeah, if you don't have anything else, I think we are good to let you guys go. Thank you for your attendance and participation. Thank you guys.